right, today, guys, the question and topic stems from some recent posts I've been reading, some research articles, and I think it'd be a good thing to share because it's something that I was often misunderstood about. Again, I don't know all the details to the furthest extent. I'm not an endocrinologist, so when I dive into this topic, obviously there's certain areas that I'm lacking in, but this is my understanding of it. So talking a little bit about cortisol. And so cortisol is often accused as being the bad guy. Cortisol is, it's catabolic. It breaks down your muscles. When you have cortisol present all the time, we have all these negative effects that take place. And yes, but the caveat is when it's present all the time and when it's excessively high, but also there's problems excessively low. So talk about cortisol first and foremost. It follows a diurnal pattern. So during the day when you wake up, it should be highest. When you go to bed, it should be lowest. A typical cortisol sampling takes place over 5 periods over a day, 5 different times during a day. And it looks at within a certain bandwidth if you're within that spectrum. And so you can have high cortisol, you can have low cortisol, common, not symptoms, but it might be symptoms if we got word use. To someone who has cortisol issues might be wired but tired, they have trouble getting out of bed. All these things are related to certain aspects of maybe an imbalance system where cortisol is either too high or too low. But we're going to talk about cortisol in this extent to exercise and why it's present when we are exercising and why it's not necessarily the bad guy that's always made out to be. So cortisol, when we exercise, we have metabolic activity to take place. And reactive oxygen species are created in the muscles and all these other signaling pathways. And one of the things that happen is, IL-6 is created. And IL-6 can lead to stimulating of cortisol. And what cortisol does, it actually does a good thing. It tells the liver, hey, we need some, it's called gluconeogenesis. It says, hey, we need some more blood glucose in the area because we're under, stress. We're under not attack, but under, a need, a demand to actually get some work done. And so cortisol goes to the liver and it says, hey, man, make some glucose. Our muscles need some more glucose. We need to get rolling here. We need to have the body needs to have some energy to perform the activity. And so cortisol has this process where it's present during the workout. And when it's, again, sympathetic activation typically can lead to this as well. You have that cortisol response, help mobilize energies, produce energy, make glucose so the muscles have fuel to actually partake in an activity. Because you think about this in terms of a stressor externally, like say, a mountain lion trying to come get you. You want to have that response. You want to have glucose readily available for the muscles to be utilized. However, again, it's not necessarily a bad guy. We say, cortisol is this bad thing to have. Well, no, it actually serves a very important purpose in regards to, our body getting the fuel that it needs to perform the work. And so what happens is the cortisol, goes to the liver. It says, hey, liver, make more glucose. Liver makes more glucose, and you continue to exercise, and maybe there's a response where we have cortisol, again, continuing to provide our body with the signaling that it needs. The issue I think people commonly misinterpret is that it's the excessive amount of cortisol at times when it's not necessarily needed and a dysregulation of that feed-forward pathway that causes some issues. And so in the medical world, they, endocrinologists dive into the relationship of cortisol to testosterone. There's also cortisol DHEA. And there's certain processes and minutiae within there that looks at whether or not that cortisol is being produced in an effective manner, whether it's not it's being actually present for the reason that it should be, or if that feed-forward loop has been dysregulated. And it's that dysregulation of the feed-forward loop, which you typically read in some articles with testosterone cortisol ratios, they look at from a catabolic to anabolic balance. And so a lot of the papers you might read, it has testosterone and cortisol, and that under that assumption, testosterone is always anabolic, cortisol is always catabolic and negative. But again, that's not always the case because cortisol does play a very important role for certain, physiological processes that need to take place in order for our muscles to perform the exercise that we are taking them through. And so, this question again stems from someone saying, cortisol's bad. And it's like, well, it's not necessarily bad, right? It's all about context. Having the understanding of how these pathways all interact with each other is what's more important. And whether or not if that cortisol isn't necessarily, high cortisol, well, low cortisol is bad too, right? You don't want excessively high, DHT, which is dihydroxytestosterone. I think I said that correctly, which is responsible for acne and male balding as well. So, having high DHT is obviously a bad thing, and probably having low DHT is a bad thing. When we talk about endocrinology, we talk about balance of systems. Balance is the key word itself. How do we balance the system? And so things that balance the system are things like proper nutrition helps give you the proper, nutrients and certain, the nutrients maybe isn't the best word for that, but certain raw materials and building blocks to take care of some of the compounds that your body needs. Just like sleep helps with restoration, reducing your anxiety, the stressful impacts that you have will reduce the amount of, sympathetic activation and possibly excessive cortisol excretion. But again, it's all in the spectrum of many different things at once. So you can't just say cortisol is this bad guy. Our body isn't, it's not that one-sided. It's much more about how that cortisol is present in regards to the body, how it is being measured too, right? Is it morning cortisol? Is it post-exercise cortisol? Is it your daily pattern of cortisol? 5 times taken through the day, and within, taking it once, are you taking it once a week? Are you taking it once a month? All these things play a role when we start looking at that kind of stuff. And so, again, whenever time we look at hormones, hormones are extremely complicated. They are something I try learning about. They're something I'm not the most versed in. I'll be first to admit that. But they are something that they're multifaceted, right? It's an interconnected, complex system which hormones interact with our body. And so having the reductionist approach of saying this is bad or this is good or vice versa, or a one-to-one kind of linear mindset kind of leaves you a little bit lacking, which is where I think sometimes the ease of interpretation of some of this information really isn't there, because it is very difficult to understand naturally, and by nature it's a complex topic. So again, I appreciate you guys asking these kind of questions, and it's a good topic to dive into. And I think important, again, you can understand some of the physiological processes of why cortisol is being stimulated. You can better understand contextually why, when it's present for certain reasons it might be a good thing, and when it's excessively present or low it might be a bad thing. And what does low mean? What does high mean? Are there certain pathways and feed-forward feedback systems that are issues, right? Excessively high sometimes maybe is a symptom commonly associated with some sort of overtraining, but also excessively low as well, and for different reasons. And maybe it's the duration of overtraining and how you define overtraining, and what processes are leading to that overtraining all play a role as well. So thank you guys, really appreciate it, and take care.